Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Noon Book Club. I'm Eleanor Mills, the founder of Noon. You can see I've got my Noon signs behind me. I'm feeling rather efficient today. And this week's guest is the lovely Ericka Waller, who's joining us from Brighton, or down near Brighton.
Yeah, very nenear Brighton. Yep.
Near Brighton, yes. I thought for a terrible minute your face looked really blank. I thought, oh God, have I got that completely wrong? So we're thinking today, we've got a slight change in format, that we're thinking that Kate Spicer might join us as well. Kate Spicer, also a rather canine orientated author. She wrote a book about her dog getting lost and found again, Wolfie. So I hope she's going to join us, because I think she'll bring something to it too. But I really want to introduce Ericka to you all. I absolutely loved her book, Dog Days. It was really not what I was expecting when I first started reading it, and I found it very, really kind of curiously moving. And I also think it's particularly appropriate for Noon, because it's all about transition, isn't it? Every single character in it is going through a massive life epiphany. And really, what we're talking about in Noon is that massive moment of shift in midlife, where everything changes, and it is all about transition and getting used to a new phase. And as we know, that is often pretty painful. It's not always great. And what I loved about Dog Days was the role that the dogs played in helping these various characters, really interesting, different kinds of characters, I thought, go through a really important kind of shift in their lives. I thought it was beautifully written, and I really enjoyed it. So well done, Ericka, and I'm sure lots of you did too. So Ericka, before she became a published novelist, was a blogger and a columnist, and in fact used to work with our lovely Jennifer Howes, who's hiding up there behind the new sign. He used to run something called Brit Mums, and you used to do some stuff for them, didn't you, Ericka?
I did, yeah, I did. I got involved quite a lot with Brit Mums. They were a fantastic community for mum bloggers, mum writers, and women who needed to find a platform, needed to find similar people in a similar state of mind and ask advice. When I live in a very small village, and I felt like the only person in the world. So Brit Mums gave me a community of women that were in my situation, and they were my friends. I've made some amazing friends through them that I still speak with now.
Yes, and now we're part of this new community of midlife women with Noon.
Yeah, it's like Brit Mums grew up. We're now queen. It's now all about the queen ages. Oh, and we've got Kate joining us too. Fantastic. Hi, Kate. Thanks.
Hi. Sorry, I'm late.
Thanks for joining us. That's all right. It's the lovely Kate Spicer.
Amazing.
Yeah. We're yes, this is Kate. This is Ericka.
Sorry about my terrible lighting. I haven't quite got the Victoria Beckham spotlight going on.
Oh, I think you're looking very glamorous.
I've set the zoom filter to massively softening.
Me too. No, it's as soft as it can go, because I've got like bags under my eyes, so I'm very blurred out.
Haven't we all?
You all both look very unblurred out, I have to say. Mine I don't know about the blur filter, so I'm a bit hopeless, but I've got my glasses on. But
golly, I could probably do my lighting slightly better.
No, don't worry, you look great. So while Kate sorts out her lighting, Ericka is going to read us a little bit from the book, to give us a bit of a taste of what we're talking about.
Right, I'm going to read a little bit about Dan's dog Fitz. I'm rubbish at reading out loud. I feel like I'm at school and already my throat's quite closed up. I shall do it. Fitz's yellow fur glints in the evening light, and his muscles ripple under his slight cheese lovers, the pair of them, fat roll. He was made for running. His legs are pistons, his haunches the shape of tennis rackets as he canters, mouth agape, tongue lolling. Fitz fills Dan with the simplest form of love, comfort. Fitz is nursery food, coddled eggs, honey and milk. Dan admires his dog chasing an abandoned crisp packet as men in flat caps appreciate thoroughbred horses trotting at the Grand National. There is no better dog, and there never could be. Yet Fitz was a risk. Dogs are messy and uncontrollable. They need a lot of time and effort. They spread hair and mud and dribble. They force you to be sociable with others when out walking. Dan hadn't wanted a dog, but then Luke got Wolfie, and Dan found himself falling to his knees to ruffle the dog's furry ears. Dirty genes be damned. Dan would laugh out loud when the oversized dog scrambled into his lap, knocking him backwards onto his heels, covering him with wet lamps of tongue. It wasn't long before Luke turned up at Dan's with a bundle of fluff. A pink-nosed poketail and 2 brown eyes appeared from the wrinkles in its face. Dan had never seen such kind eyes. "Oh," he had said, backing away as his heart and resolve melted like candle wax. "Ah." The dog had slipped from Luke's grasp and wobbled over to Dan, who found his arms were already outstretched, waiting like the windmill to welcome his boy home.
So good.
A complete ode to my own Labrador, Buddy, who's
Is that who
outside
you can
the
see in
bedroom.
the background?
Well, you can see, I've got the 2 small dogs, but the Buddy is old now, and he'll come in and he'll have a dream and he'll yip and bark and take over the show. So he's outside. I might let him in a bit. Never work with animals or children. I've got both in the house at the minute, so I'm just like, anything could go wrong.
Ericka says she's banished all her children, bribed them not to come in,
Bribed
so
them.
we may get some extra guests. So you're right, animals and children, always difficult. So tell us a bit about the kind of antecedents, the seeds of this book, Ericka. Where did it come from, and why did you? What novelists often talk about a kind of character arriving or a particular kind of moment or scene creating the book. What are the seeds of Dog Days? Does it reflect something in your life or what you saw around you?
Well, when I was out walking the dog, because I only had Buddy, and then I had Buddy and Weena when I was writing Dog Days, I was always really fascinated at the affinity I felt with other dog walkers, even though I didn't know them, but because they had a dog. So I walk on the beacon, which is where the book is sent, just I can see outside my window. And I'm reading the comments, Golden Retriever, Jack Russell, I just want people to send pictures. And I found...
We could have some pictures. You could post some pictures and tag the
dog
Noon
photos,
Instagram.
They
that
are,
would be good.
Please do.
Pictures of dogs, always good.
So I kind of, you get speaking to people just because if you've got a spare poo bag or, that kind of thing. And then I thought,
is that the most usual? Is that the most kind of normal thing that dog walkers ask each other?
Have you got a poo bag? Or, and then a bit of a laugh. Oh, I hope it's not too thin. Oh, like really bad jokes. And then also I just find it really weird that you're speaking to a person while picking up a poo, and so I just find the whole thing quite fascinating. And then I sort of thought, I go and speak with these people in the middle of a deserted beacon at night time because they've got a dog, and I think therefore that they're safe. And then I started to imagine, like, this could be an axe murderer. This could be, what are they going home to? Are they going home to a wife, to a chair where a wife used to be? Are they going home to a partner, or are they going to a safe space? And so I kind of had this, it gave me the inkling of, like, I liked the idea of exploring the lives behind the dog walkers. And I don't think I realised this till I finished the book, I was writing about grief. I lost a very good friend to an aneurysm years ago. But then I lost a friend in the Shura Mare disaster, Morris, who drove the limo. They kind of made him like the top photo of the thing. He was a really good friend of mine, and he saw me through a really horrendous time in my life. He appeared, my husband and I broke up for a couple of years. I met Morris the week before my husband left, and he died like the week after my husband moved home. So the whole thing was just really strange. And George is kind of Morris, which sounds bad because George is awful, but Morris was wonderful. But there was a lot to it. I realised that I was writing about my anger and my confusion, and also how my dogs saved me. They really, if I hadn't had to get up and walk them every day, and having that time out with the dogs to get my head on straight so I could then be a mum and all the other things you need to be. So I think it was an interesting process because I didn't really know what the book was about till I finished it, and I felt a lot better. And I was like, oh, I've processed something. I've made sense of something here. That was a really long answer. I'm so sorry.
No, so it was an absolutely fascinating answer, and it was exactly what I was eliciting, because there's definitely a lot of grief and a lot of sense of coming through trauma in the book. I mean, that was what I really was meant when I was introducing you, saying that it was all about transitions.
Yeah.
Kate, what do you think? I know you've had a bit of
my dog. I've also written a book with the word dog in its title, which was Lost Dog.
Lost Dog.
Yeah, but that was fundamentally about my love affair with my dog Wolfie, and Wolfie died basically a week ago in this very room, and I said to Eleanor, said, will you come and do this with me? And I was like, God, I just don't know if I can. I'm so heartbroken about losing this dog. And then I opened the book and I saw the first dog that it's called Wolfie, and I was like, fuck, I'm gonna cry my eyes out.
Oh no, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to add to your trauma.
No, it's fine. You know,
Sorry.
grief is something that you live with, isn't it? It becomes part of your life. You think it's something very separate where you're lying on a bed crying constantly, but actually it's something that you live with almost constantly. And anyway, but actually my very first thought about this book was, wow, this woman's processing in this novel a lot of very ordinary tragedy. So nothing really exceptional happens, but every single person is dealing with very, I hate to say the word mundane because there's nothing mundane about tragedy, but everybody is dealing with tragedy. And I didn't know anything about you, and my first thought was, is this woman a psychotherapist?
Oh.
The way you manage to process, because the book is super ordinary. Like, people are living very, very ordinary lives, but it's emotionally deeply wrenching. And actually, it is about the way that dogs weave in and out of our human lives. But actually, it's a human book. It's not White Fang or those books that are very much all about dogs. And so, yeah, I just wondered, like, how did you find the way to understand so many different ordinary tragedies? You know, I hope everybody here has read this. I don't want to be a spoiler.
I won't do spoiler alerts. I'm really pleased you asked that, actually, because for everything I've ever gone through, I've always kind of thought, if I can learn from it and kind of help somebody, then it felt almost like a responsibility. And that was when I was blogging. When I wrote as a mum blog, I always wanted my blog to be real. I was never like the pureed homemade mum. There's nothing wrong with that, but I always wanted to come across as genuine. Like, look, I've got 3 kids in 3 years. I'm a mess. I don't know what I'm doing. And I just wanted to reach that woman who was like, oh, thank God it's not just me. And then through the things that I've kind of gone through in Dog Days, I tried to put everything I'd learned about grief and anxiety and my experiences with OCD and my experiences of kind of emotional trauma, not like a self-help book. And I didn't, and I'm not an expert on it, but I kind of have this, if you've got a platform where you've got people who might engage with you or read your work, it's really important to me that you give something that may be of help. Does that, I don't know if I'm articulating myself possibly, but I think it's
that is super honourable. But actually, I don't think that books ever start from a point of like, I want to help people. I think the true core of a book is about honesty. And I didn't feel that you were writing a book that was trying to like help people. I felt you were writing a book about people. And so how did you feel? You know, there's a lot of different characters in the book. And at first, when I was just in my mad grief, I was like, fuck, I can't deal with all these characters. But actually I did. I was super swept up in it, and I really enjoyed it. But every character, you know, you're looking at, you know, things that gay people go through, things that suicidal people go through. I mean, the story with Lizzie is really complex, and
let's really not give them. Let's not give them
I'm
too
not
many
giving
spoilers.
away any
There's
spoilers.
lots of people on the chat going, no, I'm only halfway through and I'm really liking it. So just
no, but I don't think I'm not giving anything away. But everybody in your book, every character in your book, is going through quite a complex life narrative, and you seem to be able to pick it apart and like George, for example, is fascinating. I was like, I hate this guy.
Yeah, me too.
How is she going to redeem him? How is she? And I'm not even sure that you do.
No, and
you're able to dig into him and find his humanity. Like, are you a particularly compassionate person? Do you have a history of, have you had any training in psychotherapy whereby you can just respect people's journeys? Or
did you I want to know, do you know George? Is he gonna kind of come round to your house and bang on the door and shout at you?
George is part Morris and he's part my manifestation of grief. He is that kind of, go away, I'm hurting, my pain's bigger than yours, it's all about me, I've lost something, you know.
Very masculine.
He's so jealous, like it's all about him. Ellen died, it's about him. What about his dinner? What about his routine? What about how it's made him feel? And then his journey of having to realise, actually it wasn't all about me. and then being left the responsibility of a dog and realizing he was loved unconditionally by his dog and his wife, even though he was rude and aggressive. And I think I like creating characters that are real, and for a character to be real, they have to be quite challenging. We're imperfect, and I wanted to make imperfect people. And I do know Georges in my life. I kind of grew up in pubs. So as a child, when you're in a pub with your squash and your packet of crisps, everybody on the way to the toilet goes, oh, yeah, I'm going to impart some really important advice on this, 10-year-old girl. So I grew up with strangers going, let me tell you about life. Never did. I grew up with so many different lawyers and local homeless people. Everything kind of went into my head. And then the other thing with regards to Lizzie is there's this idea men can do anything, and that's because they're a man. They can be rude or aggressive or whatever, and you go, oh, that's men for you. But when women behave or do things that aren't socially acceptable, we have to find an excuse. It's this mad or bad argument. And it really annoys me because we're just women. We're not mad or bad. We're women. We're people. We're human. And so I really wanted to create a character who made readers challenge this perception of why are we excusing behaviour for women when we don't excuse it for men. It was something that I wanted to explore.
I also thought your analysis of how hard she found it to fit in with the other women and how difficult the other women could be. I thought that was really interesting because that's not something that you read about that often. I mean, I read so many books which are a bit kind of facile about female friendship and female groups, and I thought that was really kind of finely observed and true.
I've never had a female group of friends. I grew up with my two brothers who are very close in age to me. I was a complete tomboy. My mum was a tomboy. I've never been in a gaggle of girls. I've never done the hen do on the pier. I don't drink because I come from a family of drinkers, and I sort of know if I was to start, I wouldn't be able to control it. So I was kind of the odd one out, and just was always one step behind with groups of girls. Like think of something funny to say just after they've all walked off, and I think with Lizzie as well, I thought I can't be the only woman who just can't have this group of women. Like some people, they've been going out with the same girls since NCT days or since school. I haven't at all. My best friends are my dogs.
My book was I'm not trying to flog my book here, by the way.
I do.
I'm not even going to tell you what it's called, but my book as well was very much about feeling quite challenged by other females generally. I think we live in a world that we're more comfortable with Georges than we are with Lizzie's, and that's not a good thing, but it is a thing. And like we'll accept shit behaviour from men in a way that we can't with women. I mean, even as women, even when we're feminists and we're like, oh, we're like, yeah, I'm a woman's woman. Yeah. We still struggle with strong, just complicated women.
And having a 14-year-old daughter who is going through this at school at the minute with stuff that's said, and she said, he said, and she was my friend and now she's not, and I said the wrong thing. I don't know how to help her because it doesn't really matter what I say. She's going to go through this finding herself. Is she going to be the outspoken one? Is she going to go along with stuff she's not quite comfortable with, but she doesn't want to be the person that's done? It's really complicated. Men kind of go, right, well, let's go outside and punch each other and sort this out. But with us women, there's so many layers to our behaviour and what we mean behind our behaviour. We're not speaking with her today, and it really upsets me.
It's incredibly scary. It's incredibly cruel. I mean, I've also got teenage daughters, and I've done, that they're now, thank God, almost out the end of school. They're 17 and 19, but girls when they're younger are so horrible. I mean, some of the stuff that they used to come back and say, or some of the things the way that they leave each other out, or the way that one person becomes kind of they, so that all of the rest of the group can kind of bond about something else, and you can kind of see them desperate not to be the person who's being left out all the time. And it's really horrible.
And I've always been fascinated by that woman who's like the alpha of the group. Like, is this something you're born with, or is it something that you rise to be? Like that woman in the office who's just such a bitch. Like, oh, nice for you to pop in. We all know this woman who's just, and I'm like, I don't know whether I hate you or I want to be you. I don't, like the confidence to just. And then I'm always like a pleaser, like, oh, sorry, So I think there's a lot of debate to have. And actually the book I'm working on at the minute is all about women and mothers and daughters and friendships, because I think it's something that when you haven't had this wonderful experience of girls and female friendship, I was dumped by my best friend on the first day of secondary school. She sort of said, look, the cool girls want me to be in their gang, but they don't want you in it. So we're not friends anymore. You can't sit with me.
You sound like a best friend to me.
I was 9. I was 9 years old, and I just had to sit on my own. Like, I was that kid that was like, oh, can I stand and scrape the glue off the tables? And it, you know, it hurts. And I think it's difficult with, I find groups of women scary. I genuinely do. I went to the hairdressers today, and I've got a really lovely hairdresser. It's taken me like 15 hairdressers to go into one where I don't think they're going into the back room to go, look at the state of her hair. You know, do you know what I mean though? Like, and to just be honest now and kind of say, look, I'm not very good with this.
Ericka, I wanted to say, because I've been thinking really hard about why my dog, I've got 2 dogs. Well, I've got 1 dog now because Wolfie died, but why my dogs are so important to me, and it makes me feel quite embarrassed sometimes that I'm so utterly devoted to them and in love with them. But it is exactly what you've been saying about the like we're raised as women to say, oh, but we're sisters, but actually our sisters constantly let us down, and the truth is our families, our friends, our fellow humans constantly let us down. And I do think that dogs are there to pick up the pieces, and the way I expected your book to be more from a dog's perspective, but actually what you're looking at is the small little gaps where we are lost as humans, and dogs just put their little noses in and pick us up a tiny bit. They raise us up in a human world where humans humans don't have the compassion. They don't. All humans have a kind of neurosis that makes them prickly and enable, even if they're kind people, there's a sort of prickliness to humans that there just isn't with dogs. And I think if you have a porous edge, a dog can really help you.
I really like that line. I'm going to steal that. Is that in your book, or can I
you
have
can
that?
Steal everything.
It's the simplicity of the relationship. I mean, you know, I love my husband, but he's he's a Leo. He's very complicated. You know, he's very independent. He's a man. And it's tiring, it's boring, so I just do what I've told you. And then I've got 3 daughters who I've raised to be feminists, so they challenge me on everything, which is great, but also, and then
really annoying. I have those really strong.
Like, I'm really proud that you're challenging me on this, but also just do it because I told you.
You have to shut up.
And then the dogs, it's so easy to please them. I can go out the room, come back 5 minutes later, and they've missed me. And actually, when you've got you know, when you've been together with your partner for 20 years and you've got 3 kids that just want you to leave them alone,
they definitely never miss you, do they, partners?
No, they don't miss you. And the dogs, it's such a healthy, safe relationship where you give them the most basic things that anybody could want. Or you give them shelter, food, water, and a walk.
Love.
And in return they give you everything. Like,
you have to give dogs love, though, don't you?
Oh well, I mean mine sleep in the bed and it's ridiculous. I make up songs for them, and you know, I don't know whether you guys in my I think it sums up if you guys see Nuts in May, you know that Mike Leigh film.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Right, so you know where just before they go to sleep, Candice Miros goes, "Kiss Prudence." So I hold up the dogs to my husband every night. No, you kiss Prudence, and he goes, "No, I don't want to." You know that really, really deadpan, like no. But they're my friends, and I'm not embarrassed about it. I genuinely I prefer talking with them to most other people.
It's very hard to it's a funny thing to write about dogs, because what you can never do. I remember someone, when I first started thinking about writing about my book about Wolfie, I remember a very, very seasoned writer who'd written lots of novels said, do not try and write it from his point of view, like write it from your point of view. So we only ever write about these servants of ours. You know, they are kind of servants. They look after us. They parent us. They, you know, if the archaeological evidence is that the most recent archaeological evidence is that we were domesticating dogs 30,000 years ago. I mean, it's a long time. That's the Neanderthals I think there might have been a few Neanderthals still around, but there's probably still a few.
I think that's a real, Kate, that's a real Lizzie fact.
No, I'm a total Lizzie. I did relate to a lot of characters in that book, but Lizzie definitely. But I can't remember what I was going to say. It's
You're saying that we've been, no, it's really interesting. You've been
the
saying
relationship with dogs.
No, that's right. It's about trying to manifest literally how dogs think, and we don't know. And there is this element of, and when I was reading your book, I guess because I've lost Wolfie, and it's so deep and it's so profound and complicated, and it feels deeply magical and soulful and profound. But the minute you try and write it down, it looks like an animal serving a human. But there is something else in human relationships with animals that is much deeper and more mystical, I think, than just, they plug the gaps. They
don't plug the gaps, because I think, you know how like animals and children can sense things. Like, I feel like dogs know a good soul. Like they know they're kind of, their decency. They fascinate me, like the way they look at the world and the things that make them happy, and the joy and the noises. I think that's the thing, because I work at home, on my own all day. It's the sound of their collar. It's the sound of the tail and the collar, and knowing that they're going to bark if there's something at the door. They offer you this constant kind of instrumental to your life that you come to really rely on. And then, when my husband and I separated for a couple of years, I couldn't have coped without my Labrador. Like I had a big dog there every night looking after me, and I owe him a life debt. I couldn't. How do you ever thank somebody for making you feel safe when you fall asleep?
But that's not just about the sound of the sounds and the jangle of the collar, and there's something mysterious and soulful about having an animal around that is not just about what they can do for us. It's about a kind of liminal space.
Yeah, it's a co-living
thing with love and kind of the mystery of being an animal. It's not just about being a conscious human. There's something liminal there that you can't. I personally can't put my fingers on, because the minute you talk about it, it's rather brutal and animal.
I couldn't not have an animal in my house in my life. I couldn't have no pets. I mean, I've got tortoise and birds, and I always grew up with birds as well. My mum was always rescuing like a manky bird, and I just grew up with this. Oh, I found this. I'm saving this. I bought this, a quail or a chicken or something, and it was a gift, actually. I know she's quite mad, my mum. Like, dinner wouldn't be the courgette, it'd be the fried courgette flowers, and we just learnt, like, okay, this is our dinner. We didn't eat the courgettes, we're going to eat the flowers. But as an adult, I'm really grateful for all these quirky things, because they give me good stuff to write about. But my mum was always like, this animal's injured, therefore we're going to save it. It doesn't matter whether it's a fox or a toad or a quail and we're going to have it in the kitchen by the fire, because it's cut, and I think it teaches you. There was always those kids at school that would pull their legs off those crane flies.
Yeah,
I know, but their average lifespan is literally like 2 hours. They take like a year to grow, and they live for about 2 hours, and they hope in that 2 hours they get time to mate before they die. I remember at school, kids would just be plucking their legs off, and I'd be like, oh. I didn't like them, but it just felt like cruelty.
Well, yeah, really, really, totally wrong. It's interesting. There's a comment on the chat here I want to bring it. It says, 20 years ago, I was made to feel like an oddity for having dogs by the group of NCT kind of female friends, finding them unhygienic.
Oh, your dog's
It made my children very popular, as all the other kids wanted to visit to play with our dogs. But I think that's a really interesting comment, because it's tying together both the kind of girl gang thing and the dogs kind of in one comment. And I think that there is a divide. Do you feel that there's a divide between people who are kind of dog people and people who are not? Is that?
Yeah, I do. If people say they don't like dogs, I must admit, and I hope if I lose all my viewers, sorry, I do kind of think, oh, who hurt you? Like, how can you not like a dog? And then people have had trauma. People have been attacked by dogs. I'm not, but they. Yeah, I do find it weird if people don't like dogs, or people want to come around and they go, oh, my son doesn't like dogs, and I'll go, well, I'm not. Then he can't come in because this is the dog's home.
Yes.
I'm not sorry.
Oh, no.
I don't know what you think is going to happen here, but I'm not going to put them in the car or the garden. If he doesn't like dogs, you best.
Did you know? I was just googling this today. So ancient genes predict whether we are dog owners or not. And
amazing.
So the domestication of dogs 15 to 30 years ago is some dispute, but it's still quite a long time ago.
15 to 30,000 years ago.
15 to 30,000.
As the editor, sorry.
Thanks for picking me up there, Eleanor. So it is a genetic thing. So when I encounter people that aren't into dogs, it used to be like, how can they not be into dogs? There's something wrong with them. But now I realize it's genetic. Like, some people have a breast cancer gene, some people have a fat gene, some people have a dog gene, some people some people have blue eyes, some people have green eyes. It's a genetic thing, actually.
Some people just didn't grow up with dogs. So I know people that didn't
But
have
it's
a dog.
genetic.
A lady, a comment just
parents
said,
were into dogs, they probably
Hang on, hey, Kate, let
your genes.
no, just what
Ericka
she's saying.
talk.
She's saying, I think some people just haven't been exposed to dogs. In fact, it's interesting what you're saying, because quite a few friends that do come around, so obviously 3 daughters, and they come around here because it's the madhouse where we've always got crisps and treats in, because I'm, not I try and buy friends, but I'm like, well, your friends around, I'll make cake, let me meet your friends, girls, come on. And quite a few people are scared of dogs, and I always love it when I get them to sit down with Buddy, the big Labrador, and see them like go, oh, he's not gonna bite me, he's not gonna hurt me, and seeing people overcome their fear of dogs in that moment where they get there like, I'm stroking like a wild animal, but I understand it's not going to hurt me. What a great moment to have that, to kind of realize. It's a bit of a white fang moment, I suppose, but I don't think I would have recovered from the things I've gone through if I didn't have the constant reassurance of the dogs.
Yeah. I mean, I often feel like I regularly feel like I have a dog dependency almost. Like, they pick up the pieces for me and make me confident enough to just bowl out and deal with life. And it makes me feel it makes me feel a lesser person, like an Ubermensch would be kind of strolling out, wouldn't need a dog beside them, and all that kind of thing. But I think the genetic thing is interesting. So George, for example, in your book, he starts out, I presume most people have started the book, not finished it. He starts out not giving a toss about Poppy.
Hates her, actively hates the dog.
Yeah. So how many of us are genetically dog people? Think like 51 to 50%, 57%. 51% of men, 57% of women are genetically dog people. But how many of us are dog people and don't know it?
Well,
how many of us are just not doggy?
I think people, I can't disregard people's relationship with cats. I haven't had.
Yes, we've got a bit of cat. We've got a bit of cat chat on the.
Cats in your book?
No, there's no cats in my book because I'm selfish. Cats reject me, and I can't. My children reject me. My husband, bless him, he's like, I will spend time with you, but also I quite want to watch the football and the cricket, and but my dogs are like, oh, stop and see her, and I think that is the gift that they have, is when you're at a stage in your life like we are, you're in your 40s and your children are moving away from you, your marriage is turning into kind of something slightly different, not in a bad way, but just you're tired, you're getting older, you fall asleep every time you sit down, your dogs still make you feel like, well, you're pleased to see me. Does that make sense? Yes. Yeah, so my cats know when someone's sad, and I think I don't want people to think I hate cats, because I don't. And I also know people whose guinea pigs genuinely make their day, and I think I wrote about dogs, but my mum, the same with horses. Like, she's always said, like, the greatest love of her life was her horse Mary Poppins, not me or my brothers or my dad, but the horse Mary Poppins.
How did that make you feel? Like,
it's
having
funny, just because
my mum, a parent who loved a horse more than you.
But it's the way she says it quite dramatically, like, no one understands the loss of Mary Poppins. I'm like, oh, we do, Mum, because you talk about it all the time, like all the time. But she when you love an animal, I saw a lady today, she's walking a little white dog who's got stomach cancer, and its stomach is so swollen. And she said to me, I said, how's she doing? She said, she gets up, she eats her breakfast, she comes for a walk. How do I take her to the vet to put her down? She's wagging her tail at me.
My vet would say, if they're peeing and pooing and sniffing and enjoying life, do not put them down. And
this little dog, its tumour is bigger than the dog. Its head is like tiny, its legs are tiny. And this dog is still stops to sniff a little pine cone, wags its tail. And I just think,
has a life.
People could learn from, like post-pandemic, when we've lost this and we've lost that. If we could learn to have a dog's appreciation of, oh, I'm going to go and wheel up this. And they're so easily pleased. And it's such a lesson for us. They make me kind of go, I'm pleased I came out. It is quite a nice day. Oh, a daffodil's come out. And I wouldn't have done it if I hadn't had to go out and walk the dogs. And I think that's kind of, I grew up with my great aunt who always kind of said to me, get up, wash your face and take your dogs for a walk, like a really old fashioned kind of woman. And it stayed with me. And actually, no matter how bad I feel when I've woken up in the morning over something or anything, by the time I've washed my face and walked my dogs, when I come home again, I feel like better. You know, my problems aren't gone, but I feel better able to cope with the day.
But that's quite basic. Is people read endless self-help books about circadian rhythms and contact with nature. But actually, once you've got a dog, they just do that for you anyway. You don't need to read the self-help books. You don't need to struggle to get out and see daylight and have contact with nature.
And what's
You've got to do that so your dog can do a poo.
But also, the dogs make me go out. You know, I live right by the seaside. I'm super lucky. A lot of people only walk down there kind of when it's not raining. But actually, because the dogs want to go out, they don't care about the weather. I go down to the sea when it's really angry and it's, you know, like, and it's a wonderful thing. I wouldn't have gone down without the dog. But when you go down there, you see the waves and the storm, and it makes you feel really kind of alive. And you get to come home and have a piece of cake because you've gone out in wet weather. You know, it's all quite, it's just, and sit by the fire to dry off. And you see the world. They make you go out and see the world. In the pandemic, I was high shielding because of my illness. The only time I went out was with the dogs at crazy times in the morning or evening when nobody else was there. For 2 years, the only time I left the house, apart from hospital, was walking the dogs. I don't know how would I have coped?
I'm looking at a comment here from Rachel Buchanan, who's saying, I'm intrigued by this book, but I've never had a dog. And I just want to say, this book is more about people than about dogs. We're just talking about dogs because I'm a dog nut and you're a bit of a dog nut. And Eleanor is less of a dog nut. So I'm going to go back to Eleanor.
I thought that what was so amazing about the book was about the interaction with people. And I totally, completely agree with what you're saying about dogs and animals connecting you with nature, and that living with an animal connecting you to a kind of a deeper engagement with the world and making you go out and walk by the sea in the rain, or kind of going up to the heath and kind of walking around the mud. And actually I quite like it when the light is kind of grey and kind of misty, and you kind of get out there when maybe you wouldn't have. I don't have a dog because I'm in London, and I grew up with spaniels and labradors and golden retrievers and all that kind of thing, but I don't currently have a dog. I would definitely maybe have a dog in the future if I move out of London and was by the sea and wasn't kind of going to work all the time. But I do think that there's something massively profound about being out in nature all the time and that relationship with an animal, which I think is actually incredibly important in kind of modern life. And this thing about the kind of the mums at the school gate kind of feeling it's unhygienic. I hate that. I mean, I grew up in a house full of like dog hair and dust and mud and all of that. And I think that that's a really important part of life, and that being with animals, horses and that kind of stuff too, puts you in contact with something really visceral that a lot of people in the modern world really miss. And I go up and I go up to Scotland quite a lot and swim up in the Hebrides with my friend Tamsin Kalidas, who wrote a book about being on an island, and she lives entirely with her sheep and her dogs on this croft and swims in the loch every day kind of through the year. She's amazing. And that is about a total connection with nature. And her dogs are like her. She doesn't have children. Her dogs are her family. Her dogs, her sheep. Her sheep all have names. I love going up there. You kind of rub the sheep's nose and they kind of talk to you. And it would be incredibly rude to go into her house and not engage with her dogs, because they're the people in her life. So I think it's really important. I think even those of us who are not current pet owners should have a respect for and an affinity for that relationship. I think really
and the dogs, obviously I wanted to honour dogs in the books, but I did use the dogs as a device to show what people need to learn, if that makes sense. So like lessons learned from the dog: don't sweat the small stuff, don't worry about what you can't control. The idea that you can, simple things. I've been given a sausage, I'm over the moon, I'm cock-a-hoot by this, whereas we kind of want more and more and more and more, and we're never happy. Whereas a dog, you give it a walk, you give it some food, and then it goes to sleep. I think it's really that attitude, if we could give it to ourselves. And with George, he needed something to live for, and being forced to look after a puppy brought him kind of back out into the world. And with Dan, he needed to believe he could be loved for who he was, and his Labrador is an example really of unconditional love, and the fact that you can be loved no matter whether you're, you know, gay, straight, OCD. The fact that he was a counsellor with so many issues of his own, and he felt that he was lying to the world and lying to himself. He genuinely believes that his dog saw all of him and loved him. And I just think unconditional love is such a rare thing. We talk about it all the time, and it's not always as easy as you say it's going to be. But with dogs, they make you feel like you matter, and they make you feel like you have the power to make somebody happy. And I think, again, at the stage in life when, you know, in your 40s with children, I don't know how often you guys actively make people happy. Like, I feel like I'm constantly saying the wrong thing to my teenage daughter, or my husband will be talking about work, and I'll go, "Oh, is that Steve?" And he'll go, "No, it's Gary, you don't listen." And I think, yeah, because it's really boring, I don't care. But, you know, like, you know what I mean?
Not watching.
No, he won't. No, he's not. Well, if he is, I'd say it to his face. So, but with a dog, I'm able to do something and make somebody happy, then I can feel good. Which I know it's very selfish.
Your dog behind you, the pug type dog, constantly keeps going to the door. If you want to make that dog happy, you've got to let it out.
Yeah,
Oh no, now he's going to want to come back in again. She's opened the door now. The children are going to be in. The dogs are going to come in.
There'll be a Labrador coming up.
Thinking about your book, Ericka. Thinking about your book, Ericka. It is top and tail. It is really about humans, and it is about really, really deep stuff that actually almost all of us that will read this, that everybody here will have had some contact with. It is going back to what I originally said. It's like it's ordinary, day-to-day tragedy, and it's proper tragedy. So, you know, it is about humans more than dogs, really, isn't it?
But it's also unavoidable tragedy, because I think one of the titles I kind of played around in my head was "It Was Always Going to Happen," because actually everything that happens to people is unavoidable. We are going to lose our spouses. We are going to have to accept who we are, whether that's gay, straight, OCD. At some point, you can't keep going around the mountain. You kind of have to face it. And so the other thing I wanted to do was write a story where we come to terms with who we are, and whether that's perfect or imperfect, and we go, this is who I am. And that's why with George as well, I didn't want to give him complete redemption, because he realized that he could have been a better husband to his wife and other things, but George was never...
He's an awful person.
He's a terrible person, but I also super love him, because he knows when he's done wrong, and he's got like a childlike, almost this childish way of thinking, I'll fix her table and then she'll understand that I'm really sorry for what I said. And there's something awful and wonderful about that kind of simplicity. Because my dad's a bit like that. I'd have a row with him and he'd go, "Would you want a cup of tea?"
So many men are like that.
And I'd be like, "No, I want you to say that you were wrong and that you've hurt my feelings, but I know all I'm going to get is this cup of tea." And so George is kind of that character.
Isn't it a bit like kind of speaking dog? You know, you learn to speak kind of man. I've got 6 brothers, you know, and often I find that they show that kind of love or care in a very kind of
basic
way. Yeah, very basic way. I mean, and by being thoughtful rather. It's a kind of weird kind of thoughtfulness.
I met my brother at the weekend, and he was like, "Oh, go on the kids. Look, I put a swing up for the kids to go on it." So I got on it, and the first thing he did was just push me as hard as he could into the tree trunk. And then he was like, he went into the tree. And then I was like,
thanks.
This is sibling love. Like, then I was laughing, and then he's like, "You okay though?" And it's a really unique, it's a different kind of, I know it seems stupid, but it was quite, you know, it is quite funny. And it's really interesting that with those relationships, though they're not always friendly, I can be my absolute self with my brothers. I can be moody, grumpy, and it's a similar thing with the dogs as well. But in the book, it was about those people learning to be that just to themselves. You know, and behind closed doors to say, I'm in a bad mood. I'm going to be in a bad mood.
And that's fine. And I loved your thing about Dan, always inside him having this other Dan, the one who wanted to wear pink suede loafers and kind of be gay and, you know, and kind of be kind of much more extravagant and kiss his lover and all those kind of things. And I think that I love that kind of description of the two kinds of bits of you that can be kind of boring, one that really is definitely trying to get out, that kind of real person.
I think we all have that in us to a certain degree, though. I'm sure, like, every time we don't say something we want to say, or every time, you know, I like your hair, Kate. It's just so amazingly cool, and I always wish that I could do that.
A really long time.
Yeah, but it looks amazing.
But I do occasionally look down at my little panel and go, your hair's looking good.
Your hair looks amazing.
Has taken 2 years to get it like this.
But
yeah, your hair does good. Kate's written about it for Noon, about having her having her hair get silver and having it short. It looks great. Yours is good too.
Well, in my head, I'd like to do that whole like 1940s, 1950s dress, you know, like the whole Langell thing. There is in me, there is that woman, but also I've got dogs and kids, and I'm always picking up.
Busy.
Well, you know, and actually, I think inside all of us, there's like a slightly different version that we might like to, that we wish we had time to present, or you know, like the path not travelled. And I don't think Dan's alone in hiding some of who he is from the world in case the world doesn't approve of it. Because
I think that's totally right, and that's also really relevant to a lot of the conversations that we have at Noon, because I also think that there's a kind of a pivot at about this point in people's life, in your kind of 40s, whatever, where all the things that you kind of thought that you were supposed to do in that kind of, you know, 25 to 50 point, you know, either you've done them and maybe they haven't quite worked out, or the kind of bottom falls out of them, or something massive changes, and then you're suddenly left with this point where it's like, well, if I'm really going to be the person that I'm supposed to be, then now's the moment, you know. There isn't, I think, you know, this time we've still got time, but we haven't got so much time that we can go on buggering about and putting it off. It's like, well, if you're ever going to be the person you're really going to be, or
you accept who you are. I mean, I quite like being in my 40s and going, it's 9 o'clock and I'm tired, I'm going to bed. It's something quite lovely. Like, I'm not in my 20s, I'm not in my 30s, I'm tired and I'm going to bed. Like Mother's Day, I was like, guys, all I really want for Mother's Day is for you to all do a jigsaw with me, and I don't care. It's boring, it's sad. That's what I want to do. I want my children to sit with me and do a jigsaw. And even 3 years ago, I'd have been like, oh no, jigsaws aren't, like, they're not cool. But now I'm like, I like jigsaws. I like
jigsaws are really good. I was talking to a neuroscientist the other day. Jigsaws are really, really good for your brain.
There you are, you see. But it's a nice to get to an age where you go, actually, this is who I am. I'm not actually going to get to NASA. But I've managed 3 children or whatever it is, you know.
But I think, Ericka, you've written your book. You know, you've got your kids. You're kind of, you know, you I would say that you're quite kind of self-realized. But I think that there are a lot
very
of
self-realized.
Very much so. But there are a lot of women who you know, I've talked to on Noon, or have been on our retreats and come to things, who are saying, you know, maybe I always wanted to write a book, or I always wanted to be a stand-up comedian, or actually I'd always fancied like being a florist. So it doesn't have to be something kind of particularly grand. And it's suddenly like, if I don't do it now, then when am I going to do it? And I love that sense of these things being possible kind of now.
And I think also the thing is I genuinely believe, like, I've tried to get a book published for a really long time. Like, as a child, reading and writing was my whole life, you know, and it took, I've had so many no's. I self-published 2 books that weren't really good enough to be published, and I can see that now, but I was stubborn and I just didn't give up. It's all I've ever wanted. Like, you know, I didn't go to university, I didn't get my A levels, I kind of dropped out of school, made all those mistakes. And I kind of thought, to see my name on a book, to be able to take my daughters into Waterstones and go, look, there's my name. So if I can do this, you guys.
It's such a good book.
It's such a
good book.
It's a brilliant book.
Then you guys can do anything. But I think also with what you're saying to the women in the retreats and stuff, I think it's a really interesting thing. And my only thing would be, like, if you really want it, you don't leave it behind. Like, you know, so sometimes it's letting go of this dream. Like, oh, I want to be a Pilates teacher. You don't really, because you'd have done it. But then there's these other things that they won't quite go away. And that's when you go, do you know what? I'd give it a go. I'm going to give it a try, because you've got nothing to lose and everything to gain. So to the people on the retreats, and there's so many communities and online forums, if people want to write, there's so many classes and lessons where you meet like-minded people, you know, women like you who are in your 40s and like, I'm going to have a stab at trying to be an author, and you know, nobody kind of laughs at you. They go, oh, cool. I mean, Helen, my lovely Helen Paris, who's on this Zoom, I met her on the Flavor course, and I said to her, I feel really emotional. I said to her, even if I don't get published, I met you and it was a gift. Like, if I don't get my book published, it's still the best money I ever spent, because I've met this, she's just inspirational, intelligent, supportive, does amazing things for women, does amazing things for the world, and just got me straight away. I was late to my first session. I was supposed to be reading out loud. I was sweating, I was trembling, and everybody else knew it, but it was Helen that just poured me a glass of water and pushed it across the table. She'd never spoken with me before, but she saw, and it's such a small kindness, like I'm talking about the dogs, but it changed, you know, the fact that she had done that for me. I was like, right, pull yourself together and do this. So I think these
it's being
forums and stuff
it's being seen. I think that's what, you know, the glass of water is saying. I see that you're sweaty and anxious, you know, it's all right,
yeah,
you're
shout
here.
out to Helen.
I
And
understand.
I have to say while I'm here, because she did get her book published as well. Very honest to say, we're the only two on the course that got our book published. Her book, Lost Property, which I will tweet about. Like, if you think Dog Days is good, like Lost Property will steal your heart. Like, it will put it in its handbag and it will never give it you back. She is an extraordinary. She has a story to tell as well. And I just, you know, when you meet women and you're just like, goals, you know, like I admire her. And it's so nice to be at an age where you can turn around to a woman and go, I love you and I admire you. And they don't go, oh, you know, like it's not like she's my ultimate girl crush. Yeah, and I love her. And I often think, like, what would Helen do? And it's such a gift to have found a friend like that after what we were saying earlier, where I didn't have a big group of friends. And it's taken me to my 40s to find my tribe of women. But I'm all right with that, because I've met the women in my life are amazing. You know, they say measure a man by the company he keeps forever, which is obviously measure a woman.
Measure the man by the size of his penis, I always say.
Well, obviously that initially.
I'm joking.
You know, and then how well he makes the tea in the morning, but also by the company he keeps. And I finally found this oddball collection of really intelligent, emotional women who, like we're talking about, their lives didn't quite follow the exact path that they thought. And in not following those paths, they're so much better for it, because they're emotional and they're understanding and they're empathic and they're real people. Does that make sense? And they're who I want to read about.
Of course it does.
Who I want to write about as well.
And I think also one of the nice things about kind of being at this point in one's life is that you make new friends. I mean, that was the other thing I really loved about your book, because it was about a kind of intermeshing of a whole load of lives who are actually really enriching themselves, you know, with the dogs, but also with that kind of human contact and new friends and new relationships. And actually, I do think that that's one of the amazing things about this point in one's life, that you do find new friends, you find a new tribe to kind of, who are actually your right people. And often the people that you thought were the right people for you have quite an interest in keeping you in a certain box, and actually you can find a whole new load who make you go, I see you, you're exactly, you know, you're just like me, you know.
And letting friendships go in your 40s, that you realize you've been carrying this friend along because you met in school, or you've been carrying this friend along because of ABC, and actually it's not particularly a healthy relationship and it's sad and that kind of thing, but actually there's something nice about knowing yourself and going, it hurts me, this isn't good for me, like I'm giving something that I'm not getting back. And it makes me really want to go on one of your retreats. Like, that's my ultimate, you know, that room full of women who are just like kind of got that excitement and those nerves, and just kind of getting to know them and going, you're going to be brilliant at this, you know. Like, I was in the hairdressers today and they're like, oh, Ericka, we need a new Saturday hair washer, you'd be really good at it, do you want to do it? Like, they don't know about my book, whatever, but I love that they were like, you'd be so good at talking before the customers coming in. And I was like, I felt really honoured that they would be like, you could be the front of our and it, how nice when people shout out women like that and go, you'd be really good at that, why don't you give that a go?
And
that's a positive environment, and it's exactly like raising the girls. That's exactly what I want to raise these daughters, that go, do you know what, why don't you give that a try? You'd be really, I mean, they're just grumpy and they don't ever want to do anything, but in my head, if I keep saying the same thing to them, maybe it will osmose into them, like, let's be really positive and nice to other women and not be those women that are horrible to each other.
No, they will. They will. I'm sure that they will totally do that. And that kind of a really truly supportive community is what we've been, you know, what we're trying to create at Noon. And what was amazing about the retreats is that the women really come and they really stay friends. I got a message from them all kind of in January, and they'd all met up and we're all kind of out together, kind of having a laugh. I felt a bit jealous that I wasn't there, but it was a really
you facilitated that though. You laid the foundation for that, which is like what a gift that you gave those people, that they now have formed a friendship that they wouldn't have. Oh look, Sam came to our Noon anniversary gathering. Just amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, no, they all we invited them all, and loads of them came, and they were so sweet. They were so kind. Loads and said it really changed my life, and they really meant it. And part of the thing that had changed their life wasn't anything I'd done during the week, but was that they'd made these incredible friends with these other people in the group, and they were all supporting each other, and they'd found a new tribe to kind of move forward.
It's about connections, though, isn't it? It's about not feeling alone. I mean, Kate, at the minute, with your, find it even really hard to talk about people losing dogs. It's just like it's just I don't imagine how you're feeling, but you know, a loss and a lack of a connection that you had, and a hole where once there was something there, you know. And it just makes me want to like fill your life with things like, quick, let's keep Kate really busy, let's, you know, it's a
You know what's been really interesting about it is you can't take away the loss, and I think anybody with half a brain knows that grief is something that you have to live through. And losing a dog is, half the world will think that is, they will go snap out of it, it's just a dog, and the other half of the world will go, I'm with you, it's okay. But what's been really interesting, and what you guys were talking about, is about finding new tribes and new friendships, is that after Wolfie died, and before he died, I was like super private, didn't like talking about it, didn't really like talking to my friends about it. I felt very, very, very private about it. But then the night he died, I posted something to Instagram. I just couldn't help myself. I've got a very ambivalent relationship with Instagram. Very, I think like most of us half-thinking people are very suspicious of social media and suspicious of our motives of going near it.
Yeah.
But I posted something, and then I've posted sort of, he died 7:30 on Wednesday night last week, so 8 days, and I've sort of posted, not constantly, but maybe 4, 5, 6 times since then, and the way that it has comforted me has been unbelievable. I had no one around me really who got what I was feeling, or was prepared to discuss it with me.
But online,
I had all this literally like a tsunami of, I've been there, it's totally okay to feel that grief. My dog died 10 years ago, I'm still heartbroken, but I'm, you know, that's grief and you live with it. And just this incredible amount of support I got from Instagram that is truly genuine and genuinely reassuring, genuinely comforting, and genuine.
Yeah, and I think
I don't really like social media, but I have to say these last 8 days it's been incredible.
Social media, dogs and books, man, you can't go wrong with them. I only really integrate.
I don't know that social media helped my book that much, but definitely
we're going to help your book, so don't worry about that.
Yeah, we're
going to help your book.
I think it can be. I think it could be both the worst of times and the best of times. Social media. I completely agree. And sometimes it can completely surprise you. And also, I'm very grateful to it because it has. Without it, we couldn't have built Noon at all. I mean, I spent 25 years putting dead trees newspapers on lorries and having them like distributed around the country. And you couldn't reach an audience then unless you were a publisher who could afford to kind of put things on paper and distribute it. And now you can, we built a pretty big audience for Noon entirely through social media. So I'm now, having been quite anti it, I'm now actually quite a fan, because I think it can, if used in the right way, really bring people together. And you can speak directly to a new tribe of people without it having to be mediated through publishers like, News UK, where I worked for so long. And I must say, it's jolly nice not having to work.
I've met some amazing, I've met some amazing book people on Twitter. I've met readers who are so similar reading time. They've become friends of mine. I mean, and so the kind of things I've gone through. I mean, I go into hospital quite a lot with various things, and I met a 95-year-old lady in there called Ida who had no family, and I just put it out on Twitter. I've met, I've adopted this old lady. I don't suppose anybody would send her a card. And Twitter, they killed this lady's, like still now, like every week, this lady's got no family. She's got like 8 people that write to her from Twitter, just from people that like the same books as me. We got talking, and I just sort of mentioned this thing. There's kindness out there if you find it and you give it and you lay the example for it. I think it can be really positive, but I also think with what Kate's saying is very good. You have to, every time you use social media, be prepared, like, why am I doing this? What have I got an expectation of something coming back to me, or am I
I've never posted to social media in quite the same way I did when Wolfie died. And I didn't expect anything, and I wasn't asking for anything. I just felt a need to express my grief, and I wanted to, and it was coming from a autonomic position. I wasn't thinking about it a great deal, I have to be honest. It was almost, and what I got back was just a lot of human experience that was extremely reassuring, and in that respect, that was a completely unique experience for me. I have never you know, when Wolfie went missing, I don't want to dive into my situation at all. But yeah, this particular circumstance of losing my dog and hearing people's stories coming back, that it's been sincere and totally reassuring in a way that I could not have got from my IRL community.
Yeah, no, I think that's really true. I mean, it's really interesting here that, Kate, because I mean, I loved your book that you wrote about when Wolfie went missing, and that was also about a kind of community that helped kind of bring him back for you, wasn't it? And in many ways. It
was, but in that circumstance it was slightly different, because I shouted out like I desperately wanted to find my dog who was lost in North London somewhere. But this has been just about emotional grief.
Yeah.
In that case, I desperately wanted help to find my dog, but in this circumstance, I was just grieving, and everything I see on social media is somebody wants something, they want to promote something, they want to
sell something, or
sell something,
Yeah,
or there's a lot of narcissism where people are feeding mental illness, frankly.
Yeah.
And that's
there is also
most about social media, is it feeds mental illness.
But then you do get something like Noon, which is built from genuine, intelligent, emotionally intelligent women who have been, I don't want to speak for you guys, but I'm assuming to care that much about helping other people. Generally, we've all got a story to tell about being hurt or let down. People, women come to talk about their scars and their pain because they are empathizing with somebody else. And you know, you guys that have founded Noon and Back with Brit Mums, it started from a woman saying, how can I help other people? How can I help other people that felt like me? So for all of the negativity online and Twitter and social media, and it's there and it's dangerous, and I'm petrified for my daughters, when I find women like you guys who I've not spoken with, and I touch base again with Jennifer, who I haven't spoken to for years, some of my strongest relationships have been, and it's faith, isn't it? It's putting out your little light into the world and saying, look, I'm sat here in the middle of nowhere. Is anybody else feeling the way that I'm feeling? And trusting that other people will kind of tap back into that same thing, which is what Noon is doing. And luckily, Kate, I'm pleased that's what you got back when you sent your Instagram post about your lovely dog. I'm really sorry. It makes me feel really sad. I'm so sorry. I didn't know before.
No, there's so much emotion on here. I can see poor Kate, you know, I know Kate's has been really sad, and I really appreciate you coming.
I've had 2 glasses of wine and I'm chatting on Zoom, so these are not the difficult.
Yeah, but I'm so
difficult times is when
we really appreciate you coming, and
I really appreciate you coming, Kate.
Yeah, and it's been such a rich conversation.
Would you send me? Will I have yours?
You being here.
Sorry.
Will you? And I will read yours. We will do dog-based things together.
Like the most ultimate dog-based thing is a walk.
Yep.
Not Instagram. It's a walk.
Yeah, we could do it.
Maybe we should do a Noon dog walk.
Oh my God, that would be
very good sense.
Do you know what's amazing about that? I was thinking about this while you were speaking, and I was thinking, for those comments that I've seen saying I've not had a dog, or I'm not sure about dogs, like I was thinking, like, don't worry everybody, I'll bring my 3 dogs, and those that don't have dogs and come for a Noon walk, and then they'll realise that you know, we could do this wonderful, here's a dog if you don't have one, and you know, here's a dog.
You've got to remember, not everyone is doggy, and not everyone is sexy. Some people are just not animally.
You can walk separately.
Yeah, but we do.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we walk with the dogs.
But maybe on the
we
end.
walk with the dogs, but you don't have to have a dog to come.
But what's great about having
you don't have to have a dog to come, and I think even those who
just need to want to move forward.
Yeah. But it's nice, like if I said, oh, we should all just meet up and go for a walk, it's a bit like, that's a bit weird, why should we do that? But if I go, we should all meet up and do a dog walk, people go, oh, dog walk.
I'll tell you how you make it less weird. We go to the pub afterwards.
Well then, you know, I was going to say actually, like maybe go up to one of these ponds or something where Eleanor, you swim, you know, like maybe do some dogs in the water.
We could
swim, walk, pub. Dog.
Yeah, swim, walk, park. Yeah, we can do or swim, great. Walk, park, dog. I think coming and doing it down near you in Brighton would be really good. We can swim in the sea. We can walk all the way along, and there's some great pubs.
Yes.
I would
tick.
I would love it, and any kind of organisation, I would be so delighted to do it. And look, and people are saying like, come to the Lake District for what? It's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah, I like Gillian.
We can do noon walkies. Noon walkies with Ericka Waller and Kate.
I am actually in the process of doing a radio show, Radio Reverb. I'm in talks with them about a dedicated weekly show called Pets Corner. I wanted to call it Dogging Corner, and they said no, which I was quite upset about because I just thought it was wonderful. I had a jingle and everything. But and just about this, just people talking, Kate, like you're talking, somebody like you who knows the facts about dogs and the history of dogs and pets and cats versus dogs, and just people ringing up about their pets, like who's had the most annoying pet this week and that kind of thing. And actually, they are an icebreaker. And so this idea of noon walkies, if there are people here who may be a little bit shy, but they're like, oh, well, I've got a dog, so I'll go along. Wouldn't that be really nice if that made them kind of have the
But don't you think, I don't want to introduce something controversial at the end of such a great chat, but not everyone is into dogs. And like I kept saying about the genetic thing, some people like that, like since Wolfie died, half the world is like, are you all right? And half the world is like, it's just a dog, get over it. And the people who say it's just a dog, get over it,
No,
that's genuine. They're not going to change.
they're not coming
They're going to remain.
walkies, are they?
No, well,
Beginning of the book,
Kate, they won't. No, Kate, they won't come on the walk. And also, I think you can not have a dog, but you can still appreciate that for other people, the dog is an incredibly and important and an emotionally important kind of massive part of their life. I mean, I think you have to be pretty unempathetic and nasty not to realise that if someone really loves their dog and it dies, then they're going to be sad, however you feel about dogs. For me, it's basic humanity.
It's more about empathy versus sympathy, isn't it? And I think, like, my friends whose parents have died, I know it's bad, but I haven't experienced it. So, you know, my girlfriend lost her mum, her dad, and her stepdad in like 18 months. And I know it's bad, and I want to be there for her, but I cannot empathise. I can only sympathise. And it's that, you know, of course people are like, oh, I'm sorry you lost your dog, blah blah blah. But you only know when you know. I haven't lost my mum or my dad yet. It's all kind of, it's academic. It's an imagined thing. You know.
I mean, go on, Ericka.
Sorry. No, well, I was just going to say, they say with grief that it doesn't get smaller. Grief remains as large as it is, and our life builds around it. So
yeah, someone said that to me today.
It's really interesting. So you're never going to miss your dog less than you miss him now, but your life is going to expand around it. And then some days the pain is as big as it ever was because it's never changed shape, but life kind of comes and goes. So maybe it's a grief walk. Maybe it's a dog grief walk. So maybe the commonality is people come and they walk their dogs, but it doesn't matter if you're grieving for a mum or a dad or a sister or a friend or a dog. People are there to either support somebody who's going through it or to walk.
But don't you think?
Sorry to interrupt. Women.
My girlfriend who lost her mum, her dad, and her stepdad all in 18 months. A friend of ours, lost her dog, and was devastated. And my friend was really pissed off. She was like, "I've just lost my mum in the most horrific way. I'm really upset."
But Kate, I think we're going a bit off topic here, but I think also it's, of course, you know, whatever it is that, and Ericka talks about this so beautifully in the book, that whatever it is that is your particular, and it's actually where we began on this call, whatever it is which is your particular kind of tragedy and heartache at that point is the thing that is, you know, that is most important to you and you know, commands empathy and sympathy from other people for what you're going through.
Yeah, no.
And so I love the idea of doing I think, you know, everyone can walk with, you know, with their dogs, with their grief, whatever they like, but come along and support each other. I think
Jillian Hall.
With or without their dogs or their grief or whatever they like. Go on, Jen.
Sorry, Jillian Hall from the chat has said something brilliant. You should see the reaction I get here every time someone says walk. And I was thinking, listening to you all say walk, 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 and I was imagining all the dogs at home going, what?
I've had a walk, but I'll have another walk. Yeah. In fact, now I've said it, I'll get a Labrador upstairs. And one more other thing actually on that grief is grief is something that you carry with you. And you know, like Winston Churchill called depression a black dog, but I think that grief is a dog that you kind of carry with you as well. It's as constant in its company. There's an amazing poem, which I wish I could remember the title of, where a woman likens grief to a dog and she keeps feeding it when she should send it away. It's wonderful, actually. I'll try and dig it out.
Sounds amazing.
It really is. It's a really.
Stick it up here.
I will find it. It's like a real like gut wrench. Oh my God, that's so true. And I'm feeding this dog. Oh no, put pressure on me. If I can't find it, I'll make one up. I'll write it and say I found it.
That would be brilliant.
What would be nice? I mean, to sum it up, it's the idea of like just walking or being together in a shared unity of whatever it is, be it grief, be it companionship, be it not wanting to be on your own. It's something that I really like, just the idea of that, like a group of women getting together. I think my cousin Anne's in a group called Twats. They're the thinkers, walkers and talkers, and they call themselves the Twats. And that's what they do. They go for a walk and they pontificate over cake. And they know, and I love that they do this. It's just wonderful, isn't it? They just think walk and
You're
talk.
quite there's a couple of very, very evocative cake passages in your book. Like
the cake,
lemon drizzle passage that made me really
really want to lemon drizzle cake.
I had to read it quite quickly, but I had to go back and read that twice, and then it made me want lemon drizzle cake.
Cake is a friend of mine, and I'm not I honestly, like, I do believe that, you know, like there's that let them eat cake. I always be like, why waste it? Like, it really annoys me, like, quote, like, let them eat cake. The whole cake is just makes everything. But how can you not? Like, I had baked pearl tart just before I came on this call, and I'm still thinking a little bit about it in the back of my mind. It's just
I'd love some cake now.
Yeah, get some. Get on Uber.
No,
I've
just said on the chat, definitely noon walk with cake. Cake is
homemade,
definitely a part of everything we do at noon. The cake is primary.
And wine and crisps.
Yeah.
Yes.
And maybe a
particular cake.
Cheese.
There's quite a long list now, isn't there? And cats and hamsters.
Like a suffragette picnic now. Women walking along with banners and cake. It's wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah, great. You can have some of my noon posters that I had printed out for our party last week. They're really rubbish, but I'm really proud of them. They're my first bit of noon merchandise.
I think they're wonderful.
We've been going for an hour and 10 minutes now, and I think that's probably time to kind of call it to a close. But I just want to thank everybody for coming. It's been such a great chat, and particularly to amazing Ericka and to Kate. Thanks so much for joining us.
So nice to meet you all.
Yeah, really nice.
And I think it's been such an amazingly kind of rich chat, taking in so many kind of different parts of dogs and friendship and women and community, and I've really enjoyed it, and love everyone on the chat. Absolutely, they love it. And I think also what's amazing about these book clubs is they're never the same. There's always an amazing kind of, they always take on a life of their own. So thank you very much for making this a really special one, and thanks to both of you for coming, and thanks also to lovely Kirsty I can see up there, and to Transworld, who are incredibly generous about helping us with books and things, and providing lovely authors like Ericka who come along. So thank you for coming to another noon background. Someone's saying, is that little fox lamp in the background? It's lovely. Someone's saying, Ericka, on the chat.
I spotted that as well. It's like a little teddy bear or something.
Oh yeah, over on the right.
My psycho rabbit.
And also really lovely organised walk-in wardrobe as well. Bit jealous about that.
Yeah, I'm glad that you think that. I'm glad you think that's organised. I'm glad that that's quite blurred for you, because it really isn't.
It's like Victoria Beckham's kind of walk-in wardrobe.
I get all my t-shirts from car boot sales, and I like really I was saying to lovely Kirsty actually, like my favourite t-shirt I think says, "Surely not everyone was kung fu fighting." I really like these. Like, I can't buy a plain t-shirt. It has to say something really naff on it. So that's what they all are. Cheap.
We'll try and get you. We'll get you a noon one. We'll get you a noon.
Oh, that would be amazing.
They said, our slogan is "so much more to come." So it's noon, so much more to come. So we'll send you one of those.
Wear it with pride, and I'd love to get more involved with the community. So I'm definitely going to message you. And
brilliant.
It would be great to speak more with some of these amazing comments I've seen pop up on the screen. So thanks very much for listening to me waffle.
Yeah, no, it's been brilliant. And the best thing about Noon always is the women who come. They're always so clever, and their comments are brilliant. And we'd love to see more of you, Ericka. Come and be a part of Noon. You're fully invited.
Thank you very much.
You, Kate, definitely. Have a kind of dog chapter.
Bye.
Thank you. Thanks Jeff for organising it all. Thank you everybody for coming.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.